Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 3.54% in second quarter 2022, 0.44 percent points higher than 3.11% in first quarter 2022. Central Bank of Nigeria unveils USSD code for e-Naira transactions. Plus, oil prices rise on US data, record about 3% weekly gain. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA. We're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Now, latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's gross domestic product (GDP) increased despite global economic downturn. The report shows that the economy grew by 3.54% year-on-year in real terms in the second quarter of 2022. The NBS says the growth rate declined from 5.01% in the second quarter of 2021, when rapid growth was recorded following the toll the COVID-19 pandemic exacted on the economy in second quarter 2020. It explained that the recent rise in prices have adversely impacted on the second quarter of 2022 performance. In the quarter under review, aggregate GDP stood at 45 trillion naira in nominal terms, higher when compared to the second quarter of 2021, which recorded aggregate GDP of 39.123 trillion naira. The non-oil sector grew by 4.77% in real terms during the reference quarter, lower by 1.97% points compared to the rate recorded same quarter of 2021 and 1.31% points lower than the first quarter of 2022. Growth in the non-oil sector was driven in the second quarter of 2022 mainly by information and communication, finance and insurance, transportation, agriculture, and manufacturing, accounting for the positive GDP growth in real terms. The non-oil sector contributed 93.67% to the nation's GDP in the second quarter of 2022, higher than the share recorded in the second quarter of 2021, which was 92.58%, and higher than the first quarter of 2022, recorded as 93.37%. Now, the ECOWAS Commission and the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development is set to strengthen collaboration, expand cooperation, and explore areas of mutual interest for the prosperity of the people of the sub-region. This was the focus of the courtesy call on President Toure by the president of IBID, Dr. George Agwe Nana Donko. The IBID president said that IBID was formed in 1975 but started operations in 1979 with a mission to support the developmental projects and programs of member states. President of the ECOWAS Commission stated that the new mantra, ECOWAS of the people, was created to deliver shared prosperity for the people of the sub-region and stressed that there is a need to build deep collaboration and strong institutions with the right resources and processes. The implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Market. Stakeholders in the trade, communications and digital economy are positioning the country's e-commerce and digital trade platforms for better utilization by the nation's business community. They want to achieve this through a viable policy framework.
We are looking at it from even international rulemaking, the WTO, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and also the market that is available in terms of market access for e-commerce products, including all the players in the ecosystem.
For it is e-commerce that is the brain behind every business of these days.
Now, the e-commerce sector has recently grown from 14% in 2019 to 17% in 2020, with current spending pegged at estimated $13 billion per annum and projected to rise to about 57.5 or rather $575 billion in revenues per annum by 2025. Now, let's take a trip to the commodities market. Now, Nigeria launched its energy transition plan to achieve universal energy access by 2030 and a carbon-neutral economy by 2060 to tackle poverty and climate change. Vice President Yomi Osinbajo, who spoke at the global launch this week, said the plan is to tackle energy poverty and climate change crisis, as well as deliver Sustainable Development Goal 7 by 2030 and Net Zero by 2060. What does this mean for Nigeria's oil market and the economy? We have Comrade Molade Sharif, National Coordinator, Center for Peace and Environmental Justice, in the studio to discuss this. Now, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, viewers.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you back.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
You were in Warri.
Yes.
So, okay. So now let's look at Nigeria's transition, energy transition. The Vice President launched it, I think, quite recently. And what do you make of the universal? How do we achieve universal energy access?
Well, first and foremost, let me congratulate the federal government for deeming it necessary to launch this very important transition plan project for the benefit of Nigerians and for us to also be reckoned in the commit of nation in this process. You will agree with me that maybe in few years the petroleum industry will not be viable, and so you need to transit to the next phase. And when you talk about gas, gas is a very essential commodity that need to. But my concern, let me speak from the perspective of communities. So that is where I am from. Okay. And for we to achieve this, there need to be a greater sensitization. And everybody need to be on board. There need to be all inclusiveness in achieving this project. So it is a good one. We from the analysis, we could be able to see that if this take off, it will help to create job opportunities. It will help to create zero gas and all sorts. So it is a good one, and it's a welcome development to Nigeria.
I believe you're an advocate of environment.
Yeah.
So what does it mean for the environment? Is it just creating jobs? What about the environment?
No. Well, great.
As an advocate of the environment.
One of our concerns is the environment. And sometimes we speak from a different perspective, or we view things from a different angle. Because if you are from the Niger Delta, or if you have been there, you will agree with me that the entire ecosystem, the environment has been bastardized the traditional occupation of fishing or farming of these people has been eroded as a result of continuous oil exploration and exploitation activities. Now, for you to nip it, I know the last time we discussed, we were talking about oil theft.
Yes.
Now, for you to even end oil theft, the locals, the community people need to be aware of the dangers associated with the environment. For allowing the environment to be polluted, because yes, we agree, in the 80s, I could vividly remember, in this late 70 to 80, when there is a spill from pipeline, the communities will sympathize, will even go and notify the company that we saw a leakage here. And the company will come and do the booming. The community sometimes will help them to protest, sympathize with them. So there was nothing like agitation for compensation. But then, the government, as the government continue to rely on the oil revenue to survive, whenever there is issue or spill or vandalization, the government continue to maybe bring to the notice of everyone that we are losing so number of barrels. And these people begin to realize that, so if the resources from this area is what they use in developing other part, and we are not benefiting. So that gave birth to some of these unrest in that region. And their unknown contribution, which is involving in illegal bunkering activities, has also contributed to the destruction of the environment. So the destruction is no longer coming from the oil IOCs alone, is now coming from both parties. Both parties are now contributing to the destruction of the environment, unknown to them.
Before we continue that conversation on oil theft, I understand that this particular energy transition will definitely come with a cost.
Yeah.
And the vice president said it's around $410 billion as against the U.S. pledge, U.S. and World Bank pledge of $3 billion. $3 billion. How do you see us achieving this?
It is achievable because, yes, it is 410 billion. Annually, Nigeria is expected to contribute 10 billion naira to enable us achieve it. If we are committed, dedicated, and honest to this process, I know this government will be winding up. And most importantly is continuity. One of our greatest challenges in this nation or in part of Africa is continuity. Now, this is a laudable idea that has been launched. And this project will kick off with this administration. Our prayer is the next administration should be able to sustain it for the benefit of Nigeria. So I believe it's achievable.
Okay, the another issue is the fact that the recent OPEC Secretary General, the newly appointed one, said that the problem with energy cost we're seeing today is as a result of lack of investment in that sector. That's why we are seeing energy crisis. So with this transition, how much political will do you see moving towards that aspect?
Yes, like as I said, that is the greatest concern. Even the infrastructure, with the current infrastructure we have in the oil industry, are dilapidated. These are structures that have been on ground since the late 60s and 70s. We have not been able to rehabilitate them. We have not been able to replace them. And these things have lifespan. So some of them cause natural corrosion or pollutions and all of them. So it is important that the political will, especially the next administration, to take direct commitments to make sure that these launching should not just be political. These launching should be followed to the latter. Because for example, we've seen in previous administration where governments have put deadline to end gas flaring more than 3-4 times.
Yes.
There is no political will to end it. And if you travel to those areas where gas is emitted into the air, it is a serious issue. The entire ozone layer, the entire air is contaminated. And the people close to this environment, breathing, So automatically the life expectancy is short.
Okay. Okay. So, well, the issue of oil theft. You've been in the Niger. Oh, you've been in the Niger Delta. So
That is my home.
Paint a picture of. Give us an idea of what is actually going on there.
Well,
Because already you've talked about the environmental challenge it poses, both from the community and the oil companies. Now, paint a picture for us. How is this actually affecting our revenues?
it's affecting our revenue greatly. We agree. But we need to also look it from another perspective, from the local, from the communities. Illegal bunkering or oil theft can never be a lucrative business if there is no compromise, if there is no connivance.
So how do we make it not a lucrative business so that
Now, for you not to make it a lucrative business, the local communities need to be beneficiary of the oil and gas industry.
But are the local communities not benefiting?
They are not benefiting. They are only hosting the facilities. I can tell you authoritatively. I'm part of the host communities. I was a leader in the communities. So
how do we fix this?
now, for us to fix it, the government need to create the enabling environment. Two, the government need to, when you create the enabling environment, automatically you need to woo in investors. When the investors are on ground, these local communities, these hosts will be engaged. When the youth are employed, the issue of illegal bunkering.
So you
will
are
be a thing
saying
of
the
the
youths
past.
are not employed?
They are not employed. There is no employment in the Niger Delta. The only employment you can find in the Niger Delta is militancy, amnesty program. That is why you see most of the youths, every time there is agitation, if you don't create the opportunity, we'll go back to the creek. They
So the
continue
thing
to
here is
threaten.
to employ.
The measure
Engage
is to
them.
create the enabling environment, bring in investors so that these youth can be engaged. And when the youth are engaged, this issue of illegal bunkering will be a thing of the past. Because if we continue in this manner, one, the environment is already gone. Some of the areas in the Niger Delta where we begin to advocate, like in Ogoni land, where we said, okay, let us rehabilitate that area. It will take 30 years. You cannot rehabilitate that area. And there are other parts of the Niger Delta that is worse than the destruction of Ogoni land.
So now, besides, well, let's put that aside. Now, besides, you said there's going to be commitment by the government of $10 billion.
Yeah,
you said
annually.
Then what about enlightenment about the importance of energy transition?
Very, very important. Now, NNPC is now limited. We have the Nigerian upstream Regulatory Petroleum Commission, which is shadowed with some responsibility, will take the place of DPRO. So it's shadowed with the responsibility. Now we're even talking about implementation of PIA. The communities are not even aware. The people are not aware. People are only aware that President Buhari have signed the PIA into law. The people does not know. They don't understand where to start from. And they depend on the multinationals to enlighten them, to educate them. It is the primary responsibility of NNPC Limited and NUROPC to carry out sensitization, engage competent and capable consultants that will help you to sensitize this community. Let the communities know their benefit. Let the communities appreciate it, because what is going on is only being appreciated by government. Government continue to advocate, we are losing this, we are losing that, we are losing that. So they are not seeing the benefits to community. So community, it is time for us to begin to sensitize, educate, and expose the community that if you do this, these are your benefits, these are your entitlements. And this PIA contains some of those opportunities that the host community begin to govern themselves. It is no longer in position. So you select the various leaders that want to rule. So I think one of the best things President Muhammadu Buhari have done to the people of Niger Delta is PIA, despite the fact that it fell short of some expectation.
Okay.
And which we believe there is room for improvement.
Thank you very much, Comrades. Molade Sharif, National Coordinator, Center for Peace and Environmental Justice. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Moving on, the inflation rate has continued to take its toll on almost all services, commodity, and products in the country. For instance, kerosene, which was known as the commonest and the cheapest cooking substance, is now relatively for the richer family, as the price is now out of the reach of ordinary people. The Len Yo has the reports.
Kerosene, one of the petroleum products, is commonly used for cooking as well as for lighting lamps. In recent times, this product has been scarce, resulting in the hiking price. Some consumers of kerosene who say due to the non-availability of the product, the price has skyrocketed to more than 500%, as 1 liter of kerosene now goes for 1,100 naira at filling stations, while at the black market it is sold for 1,200 naira or more.
No kerosene, bam, bam, bam. The one with that we're struggling to see, they will mix fuel, which I show you my hand. We struggle, no kerosene. For station, it's either 850, outside retail 450, then big bottle 1,000.
Kerosene, a liter now is 1,200, but we're getting it from the filling station 1,000 naira, sometimes 150. So this one that I bought, and I bought 1,050 naira for filling station. That's why I am selling 1,200 naira.
Effort to speak with independent marketers on the cause of this scarcity and hike in price of kerosene was not successful.
Now, the NGX All-Share Index for 26th August closed the day's trade positive at 49,682.15 basis point, with market capitalization at 26.7 trillion naira. A total volume of 193.5 million shares worth 4.6 billion naira exchanged hands in 3,307 deals. Now to global stocks. Global equity funds witnessed their biggest weekly capital withdrawals in 5 weeks in the week. Nekako has summary of global market activities.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. European markets were unsteady on Friday as global attention turned to U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's speech at the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. Now, the German DAX was 0.3% lower, UK FTSE added 0.09%, while the CAC 40 of France was down by 0.22%. In the Asia-Pacific region, Chinese technology stocks with listings in both Hong Kong and the US were higher this Friday. The Hang Seng Index advanced 1%, the Shanghai Composite was down 0.31%, while the Nikkei 225 topped 0.57%. US stock futures dipped. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.24%. S&P 500 also depreciated by 0.37%, while the Nasdaq 100 declined 0.56%. Now, African markets were in mixed territory this Friday as Japan is set to promise some $30 billion in aid for African development at the conference to be held in Tunisia this weekend. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Tunisia's Tunidex, and Ghana's GSE Composite were stocks in green, while Morocco's Free Float Index, Kenya's Nairobi All Share, and Namibia's overall index were negative. And that's Global Market Review. I am Neka Oku.
Well, that's it. This is where we end this episode of the program, the last for the week. Please join us next week. Don't forget you can access all previous episodes on the YouTube. I am Musa Abubakar.